Thank you for coming to King's Own this evening. We're going to start this evening in a slightly different way because some of you will actually have seen this before, but we're going to play you a video that we first unveiled when we launched our rebrand back in May. If you've seen it before, it's worth seeing again. If not, enjoy.
In the 22 years that I've been here, I've walked over 57 million steps on the King's Own turf.
The first time I came here was in October '79, and as soon as the game started I was hooked. I've never known an atmosphere or a passion for rugby as I experienced that night.
Over the years they've had over 120 internationals play at this club. Hopefully in the future we'll have many more.
When I personally think about Gloucester Rugby Club, the first thing that springs to mind is we are, and always have been, the heartbeat of the city. When you then underpin that with a set of loyal, passionate, vocal fans, it makes this club such a special place to be.
We're a real community hub here at King's Home. We have teams of all different abilities, all different levels and genders.
Playing for Gloucester Rugby is a massive honour for me. To have that support week in, week out is so important.
Playing for Gloucester, when you used to run past the shed, we used to do your half a lap, and as the noise went up and you started chanting Gloucester, Gloucester, you cannot replicate that feeling anywhere. And as a player, you'd start in that bottom left-hand corner. As you got progressively further up the pitch, you just grow. And by the time you come round to meet in your huddle, you're ready to play.
There are three of us now. There's my son Edward, who's been coming since he was 6. And he's now bringing my granddaughter Evie, who is also 6. I'm sure she'll become a fan for life as well.
Gloucester Rugby really is an institution. What people don't always see is what goes on behind just the first team here. But it's a brave new world and we've got to be ready for the challenge.
We've created a culture that we want the players to be accountable and delivering excellence. I want the players to always know that they've worked extremely hard, not just for themselves, but also for their teammates and for the supporters. If you've got an attitude of serving people, then obviously you will always look to go that extra step for your teammate. The biggest challenge for any coach is to create the environment where players feel that they belong, they can enjoy themselves.
We want to be progressive and successful in the future, so what we're attempting to do now is the balance between the past and the future.
Well, we highlighted before the game Gloucester's ability to make a break.
Crikey, what a
good.
start. Oh my goodness, that was outstanding.
And there, it's out to mark an introduction to a game. First away win of the season, and it's a win that they treasure above all others.
In reality, what happens from now going forward is what really matters to me and what really matters to the fans.
It was all my own work, but it wasn't, unfortunately. But I'm sure there are elements of that film that everybody out there can identify with, and I think it's a really powerful piece of creative. For those of you who've been to these forum before, we're going to follow the same format. Seems to be a winner. We're now at your disposal for the next hour and a half. We'll be taking questions. We won't be ducking any questions. If we can't come up with an answer, we'll park it and we'll come back with a response. But we'll try and deal with everything here on the night. We're streaming it live online, so if anybody has any questions that they wish to submit via Twitter, using the hashtag Gloucester Fans Forum would be good so that we can track those. But obviously we're going to try and give priority to the people who are here in the room and obviously come along to pose the questions to the panel. On the subject of the panel, you all recognise them, but I will introduce them in any case. Immediately to my right, Director of Rugby, David Humphreys. To his right, our Chairman and Owner, Martin St Quinton. Then we have our CEO, Stephen Vaughan. And last, and definitely not least, our head coach, Johan Ackerman. In terms of putting questions to the panel, Helen over there with the blonde hair has got a roving microphone, so just simply put your hands in the air. If you've got a question, we'll get the mic to you ASAP, and then the relevant member of the panel will give you as good an answer as we possibly can. So, always goes quiet when I ask that. Brilliant, we've got somebody. First question.
I was the first one last year.
We remember. Can you go easy on us this time, please?
No, I won't. No, I won't. This blooming advertising screen of yours. And I asked you last year, could you stop the adverts during the game? And you smirked a bit. And you said that when you got planning permission to use it, it would be a screen twice the size, and we would be able to watch the game as well. Ooh. But what you didn't say was that you were going to cut it in half, and the top half was going to be the game, and the bottom half was going to be these blasted adverts. Now, we've put up with it for a season, and on Thursday night when we came to watch the game that Johan brought to us as well done, it was so bright that we could hardly concentrate on the game as it was going beneath it. Even on the YouTube game, the next day we watched it, and that was dominating what was on the screen. Now, why do we have to have... All right, yes, that's a silly question. We know why we have to have it, because it brings in revenue. It's lots of money for you. But we've paid lots of money as well. We've come to see the game. We haven't come to see rolling adverts. We said this last year. And to say that you were economical with the facts would be kind, really, wouldn't it? You didn't say you were going to carry on. We were just going to get a bigger screen, and we were all going to be very, very grateful for it. Well, we would be if it wasn't for the adverts. And Mr. St. Quentin, you spoke to me at the end of the questions and answers last year, and you said that you were glad that I'd brought it up because you were against it from the start, and everybody else... have you forgotten that bit? But you said you were against it, but you'd been shouted down and you had to go along with it. So are you saying as the owner that you have no sway whatsoever in putting something as this abomination in our eye line? Because we've paid a lot of money. In fact, all I've got to say is the one advert is for an estate agent, and they're still trying to sell the same house as the beginning of last season, so don't go to them. So please, can I ask you, either cut down these adverts while the game is on, or can the brightness be cut down, or something so that we can enjoy the game? It's not fair, is it? Yes or no?
Are you finished?
Thank you.
Right, I'm afraid we don't have time for any more questions, but thank you for coming, ladies and gentlemen. Stephen, I guess that's one for you.
Has an infinitely better memory than I do about what I said and how I was smirking 12 months ago, but I'll take your word for it. Apologies if that came across that way, but I think we have quite a good handle on the club and what people think, and we have fan focus groups and we speak to supporters a lot of the time. And genuinely, I can say within the last 12 months since we've had that in, we might have had a handful of people mention it, as we have a handful of people mention many, many things. So my perception is that it isn't as much an issue as it came across then. If it is, then I stand corrected. Secondly, yes, we absolutely have to have advertising at the club. You know, we have this often said phrase when people say, we pay your wages or we pay the players' wages, etc. The world has moved on. You know, the central revenues, the advertising, and all the other bits that we do actually, because of how much it costs to run a club now, all make the bigger piece of the pie, as it were, so we can afford to run the club and hopefully bring in the best coaches and the players, etc., etc. So I make no apologies for using advertising at the club and for bringing a third screen. So this time, year and a half ago, we had 2 screens. There wasn't the option for people in this stand really to see a screen in front of them. It's helped in many, many ways. So I'd like to think it's more of a positive than a negative. With regards to the brightness of it, etc., we can take it away and have a look at it. But you know, I'm not going to sit here and say we're not going to have advertisements on that screen, because we are, because that's the deal that's in place. That's why we've been able to get the screen and fund the screen. So I'm sorry if that doesn't get to exactly your requirements that you personally want, but we are going to have that screen showing advertisements this year. We are going to show the game on the screen above it, and you know, we need to be commercial at this club to try to be self-sustainable, which is the plan going forward, and to give you the best team that we can possibly get on the pitch.
So when are you going to put one in the eye line of the people in the shed?
I don't know how to answer that really. Of course, we're not doing anything to spite anybody. We're trying to do things to improve the fan experience, as with the Wi-Fi, as with the app, as with the rebranding and everything else. So I'm sorry if it's personal. What I really don't want to do is take up any more of tonight, the forum. We've got thousands of people at home watching this. We've got 100 people in here. I've probably got some really salient questions. I'll speak to you afterwards if you want to have another conversation, but I really don't think we need to give this 10, 15 minutes. If that's okay with you, we can speak afterwards. Okay, thanks.
Dan, before we take the next question, we just had a bit of feedback on Twitter asking if we can increase the volume of the people on the panel for those online. Thank you. Does anybody have a question now? Gentleman at the front.
Okay, question for Johan. How tough was it for selection for Saturday's first Premiership game?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Obviously, it was tough. It's always tough. Doesn't matter what Saturday, because you know, I think I said it last season. The toughest job for any coach, well, in my view, is selecting a 23, because the reality is we're working with people, and we're working with people that's got lives and you know, beyond rugby, and if they don't have got time on the field, they can't negotiate another contract. So I take it quite seriously, and it's never easy. It's probably the most hardest part for a coach, to either tell the players beforehand, you know, that he's not selected, and see the disappointment on the faces. So for this coming weekend, you know, there's definitely disappointment for players, and you know, there's no easy way. We only can fit in 23, but it's also healthy, because we are strong as the weakest link in the team. So we need every player. We can only train as good as what the players push each other, you know, in a good spirit. If they make it a good training week, it means the team is as well prepared as they can. And also with us moving up to the Champions Cup and the amount of games we're going to play, we're going to need everybody, you know. We're going to need, I always say, you don't know how big your role is going to be in the season, but when that opportunity comes, make sure you grab it and make that 80 minutes your opportunity to shine, so that you even make it more tougher for me. And again, this Saturday is going to be quite a hard selection.
I think there's more positives with the club this season moving forward, and congratulations to everybody.
Thank you.
One moment. And credit to the Grange staff. Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Martin, we've actually had an email come in from a gentleman called Mike Thomas with, first of all, a bit of a compliment for yourself, actually. He said, it's great to see high-profile signings and investments like the new pitch. So first off, I'd like to thank you for your ongoing support of the club. And I'm sure he speaks on behalf of everybody there. And his question for you is quite a tough one, actually. Do you still see yourself being at Gloucester in 5 years' time? Well, welcome to the show, Martin.
Yes. That's not a tough question. Yeah, I absolutely do. Yeah.
Oh, right. And with that, I'll look to the audience for another question.
I think I've got this gentleman here.
Okay, thank you.
It's a question for Johan and a very quick one for Stephen after. Johan, what will success look to you at the end of the forthcoming season? And Stephen, just is there going to be a ref link this year?
Well, this week was our first media opportunity for the media on yesterday, and we had the Premiership launch as well last week, where you know, you had the media had the opportunity to ask me questions, and a lot of them obviously asked about the squad and the new players, but then the second part was everyone wanted to know what's the prediction going to be, you know, and my answer will be still stay the same. It's probably not one that everybody wants to hear, but the reality is I know, you know, we know as a group that the people want success. You know, there's no common ground. Everybody wants to be in playoffs. Everybody wants to win trophies. That's the reason why we take part in this game. We want to be the best. But the reality is that life is not as easy as that. You know, otherwise we all would have just went plain sailing through the life. So I asked the group last year when I came, let's have a common theme that we're always going to strive to, instead of, because otherwise every season the goal will be win a trophy or play and be top 4, whatever. So the common theme was play to inspire. And what we mean with that is we want to inspire each other as teammates. We've got a responsibility towards our teammates, those 23 selected. We've got a responsibility to inspire our family, our friends. We've got a responsibility towards the sponsors and obviously the supporters, that if they see a team wearing a Gloucester shirt, that they will be inspired by the way they stand up for each other, by the way they conduct themselves, with what passion they play. And then we as coaches got the responsibility to prepare them as well as we can, make sure we tick all the boxes, make them fit, see where we can improve our skills, etc. And then on the day they've got a plan that they're going to play to and a skill set that they have to use, and we must, that's the focus point for us, to do it as good as we can. So if we can see improvement every season, and we've seen improvement last seasons, maybe not on the field, but if we go into the nitty-gritties of the stats and stuff, and that's the areas that I'm challenging the players. If we can keep improving in our decision-making, in our contact skills, in our discipline and all that, that's your job as a rugby player. If you can keep improving on that, the small little bits, hopefully the outcome that you're not going to focus on will automatically happen. So to answer your question, I just want to see a team, first of all, never play without commitment and passion, because we've got that responsibility. We want to play to inspire. And second of all, if we can, there was games we've lost where we maybe made one bad tackle, or maybe had one bad scrum, or a few bad penalties, discipline stuff, and that's the one bad decision. Instead of passing it, we didn't pass it or whatever. So if all those little things that we've worked on in this pre-season, if that can gradually mature and get better and better, then obviously, you know, hopefully by the end of the competition we'll be up there and make you all proud. But if we don't see that improvement, you know, then obviously we need to look at ourselves and see where we're missing the mark. But that's the focus for us, to grow as a group, to improve the small little bits, and to make sure we always play with that commitment, and the rest will look hopefully after itself.
That's great, thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, there was a ref link question as well. Yeah, we're going to, the app that we're trialling at the moment is actually going to have the ref link running through it, which will be available, and also we're hoping to get some commentary on that as well via a local radio station at the same time. We're still testing that at the moment. We did a test at the Dragons game. We're still ironing out a couple of creases. We think we're going to launch it fully at the Bristol game rather than the Saints game. But there's still some of the ref links from last year available to buy as well in the shop. Yeah, so we still, if you want to go traditional until that, then, but then we're going to run the ref link through the app. It'll be one of the key facets of the app.
Okay, thank you.
I guess a question for Martin or Stephen, I'm not sure who. There's been a lot of discussion in the press recently about the financial viability of the Premiership. I wonder if you see ever-increasing wage caps, or you see that there's a limit to that, and I'd be interested in your comments on the financial viability, particularly of this club, but the Premiership in general. Thank you.
Yeah, it's true that all the Premiership clubs added together last year made a combined loss of about 30 million. Gloucester made a loss of about 1.5 million, so we're not proud of that. We don't want to lose money, but at the same time, in its stack ranking, we are obviously one of the... There's only one club that made any money, and that was Exeter, and they had an outstanding season. If we have a season similar to Exeter's last season, then we'll make money this season. But I think overall, the salary cap has been fixed for the next 3 seasons, and that will start to put a lot more financial common sense into the planning of all the clubs. But it is a concern. Some of the clubs are, I would say, financially probably pretty irresponsible. And we do, overall, as a group of clubs, we do need to tighten our belts.
Thank you, Martin. David, a question for yourself that's come in via email ahead of the evening. You're about to enter, it's gone quickly, your 5th season at Gloucester Rugby. How excited are you going into this 5th season compared to the previous 4?
Good evening, everybody. I was quite enjoying, as you were, listening to these 3, so I was obviously... Duncan's been feeling sorry for me. Look, I think we all come into the start of every season. Every year we've sat here, we've talked with a sense of optimism about what lay ahead. I think with the changes that have been made, with the rebranding, the changes that have been made to the pitch, with the new players that have been coming in, there is a huge sense of anticipation, a huge sense of excitement right throughout the playing squad, the management, all the supporters we meet out and about. Everybody's looking forward to this season. So we are, but we're also, I suppose you always go with a sense of apprehension as well. It is a big season for us. It's a huge test for us on Saturday with Northampton coming to town. But some of you coming in will have spoken to the players at the back. We all want the season to get started. Certainly the players come to a point in pre-season where you can't take much more, you want to play.
Thanks, David. Do we have another question from the floor?
Good evening. My question's about recruitment, which seems to have been pretty fantastic, ready for the start of this season. Just wondered whether you're 100% happy with the recruitment that's taken place, and whether you feel that there are any positions on the pitch where there's still perhaps not as many people available for that as there might be in others.
We can all probably have a little bit of a crack at that one. So for me, very, very much based on what Martin has talked about, this year with the salary cap not rising at all, that has put a pressure on our squad. So we've gone from 41 players last year, full-time contracted players, down to 36 this year. That's obviously reflected in the quality of players that we've brought in. So very much as a strategy from the 4 of us here, we want to get a team on the pitch there that can compete with the very best teams in the Premiership, and also conscious that we're now going to be playing against the best teams in Europe. So I think while we believe we have the best squad that I certainly believe has been here in the last 4 years, there are always going to be 1 or 2 areas where you'd like to be a little bit stronger, and that's something that over the next couple of years we will address. But I think going in, sitting here tonight, it's the most confident I've been in the quality of squad that we have going into the Premiership.
Are you prepared to say which positions or which areas?
I would guess if we had a straw poll in the room here, every single one of you would have a different view on where we are. Look, that's what makes selection, recruitment, it's so subjective. We all have players that we like, we all have players that we think maybe aren't as good as they think they are. We would all recruit different players. So that's what makes it a point of discussion for us all.
And I guess, David, with that pressure at the top with regard to finances, I guess that means that there's an additional importance on the academy producing young local players. So perhaps one for you and one for Johan. Over in Ulster, we had 3 young England under-20s playing, starting that game in Alex Seville, Henry Walker and Kieran Knight. How pleasing was it for you to see those 3 lads out there and really looking the part?
I'll talk about it from a strategic point of view, that every time we've sat up here, I think Martin, Steve and I have always talked about how important it is for us to see young players coming through our academy, going on to represent England, going on to represent Gloucester. It's taken us 2 or 3 years to really establish now an academy that we believe will produce that number of players. As you said, Duncan, we had players with the under-20s this year. We also had 5 players involved with England under-18s in the starting 15. So that shows the quality that are coming through. And it's not to say they'll all make it, but they're all progressing really well. Our academy is doing what an academy should do. Richard Whiffin's put in place the structures, the people that are there that can allow the young rugby players in Gloucestershire to fulfil their potential and then give them the opportunity to impress Johan so that he picks them.
to give you an opportunity to speak now. No, I just want to add, I think will always be positions, not about the doubt of the quality that we've got. It's just to give you a bit of comfort that there's a third and a fourth guy that's got the ability to play at this level. So, I think last season, for example, we had 3 senior hookers in Mots, Hibbard and James Hansen. This year we only got the 2 real senior guys in Marais and Hansen. So obviously the next guy is a massive challenge. Any of them really is going to be tested at that level, and that's where you sometimes think, yes, if we just had that third maybe guy that had that bit of more experience, and you can go through the team in certain positions. We are very fortunate and blessed to have quite a big number of players, and then others we may be on the skin. We just have to hope and pray that the injuries will stay away. But the academy is going to play a massive role, because if you take about Henry Walker as an example, he must be the guy now stepping up. He's going to have to swim when he gets the opportunity, and then we've got Joe Mullis, who's unfortunately injured, but also played for England under 20 last year. And so you can go through that, and I think the biggest thing for us is to try and fill that academy with real quality players, because there's, like David said, 5 guys of the under 18s last season in the England under 18 setup, and one of them has played at Ulster, Jack Reeves, and again it was a massive learning curve for him. So we need to obviously get those kind of guys and expose them to a high level of rugby so that we can see if they got the ability to play. But our academy is going to play a massive role in filling the depth of the squad, and hopefully those players will realise that and make that step up.
That's great. Thanks, David. Thanks, Johan. Do we have another question from the floor? Ken.
We've now got a superb pitch here at Kingsholm, and all credit to the ground staff for putting it out in such great shape. My question really is probably for Johan. To what extent has the strength and conditioning program had to change so that the team can now play the sort of style of rugby you want to play on a billiard table like we have out there?
Yeah, thanks for that. I mean, obviously, the organisation, they always get the recognition, but, like the groundsman, for example, the people that make sure we've got a surface to play on needs to be, accoladed for that, and as well as the people back at the scenes at the club, the chef and the nutritionist and everybody. But first of all, we need to thank the people on my left, the board and everybody who approved the pitch like that, and to put it in place. But I think looking at stats, speaking to Dan and David will know, he's been here for a while. We feel that again, professional rugby has moved on a long way, and every season, things move and track faster and faster. But we feel, looking at where the team was last season and where they are now, and hopefully the players will feel the same way, is that they are stronger, they're fitter, and it wasn't just because of the pitch. It's just we felt we need to be, if we want to be competitive, we need to be as fit and strong as we can be. But obviously for the brand that I want to play, and the pitch is going to help tremendously, and for that to play that, we have to be able to handle that pace for 80 minutes. So again, I don't want to sound overconfident, and therefore we'll leave it and before judgment out on the field. But the reality is the test will only happen on Saturday. Because speaking with the coaches last week at the launch, then you almost become nervous, because everybody is speaking how hard they practiced and how well they prepared. So we'll see, on Saturday. But I've got the confidence the players will be able to handle the demands on the fitness side. But it had changed. We've put in a lot of work on that sense, and hopefully we won't be falling behind on that part.
Thanks, Johan. Do we have another question from the floor? Yes, we do. Thanks, Helen.
Thank you. Just wondering what your views are on relegation, and Wallace bought the dream, and I'm sure it won't be us. I'm just wondering who you think we might be saying goodbye to this year.
Steve?
I'm saying nothing.
I think there's supporters of 11 other teams are going to be listening in very, very carefully to this one.
Yeah, I don't think we need to give any other clubs any motivation, to be honest with you. So I think we'll pass on that one if that's okay.
For Martin, sticking with relegation, there was reports earlier this year about the possibility that the Premiership was going to be a closed shop, or become a closed shop. How close were we? And is that something you think is likely to happen, bearing in mind there's only maybe 3 other clubs in the Championship that are even capable of competing?
It was to be promoted and an opportunity actually to get relegated after 5 years, not just based on run a good academy, the state of your stadium, your finances, your balance sheet, the strength of your squad, and that was what was proposed. And I wouldn't be surprised if that didn't come in the next 2 or 3 years. The problem with the Championship is it's getting the gulf between the Championship and the Premiership is now huge and getting bigger. Bristol will be fine because they're extraordinarily wealthy and they've recruited an extremely strong squad, so they're going to be able to cope fine. But I would worry about teams coming up in future, whether they're going to be able to cope. If London Irish get promoted, maybe they'll be fine. But if something like an Ealing got promoted, it could be, it could be very difficult. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if the Premiership is restricted to 12 teams for a period of 4 or 5 years at some point.
Okay, do we have another question from the floor, or shall I go to our list of online questions? Okay, not a problem. David, on the subject of recruitment, obviously squad is set for 2018-19. How quickly do you start looking to next season and possibly even beyond?
It's probably the biggest change in the game over the last number of years. 4 or 5 years ago, really there was a recruitment window which was Christmas onwards. Now we're already starting to look at the squad for 2019-2020, and I'll be able to say we Geraint Grobler, the second row we actually signed him 18 months ago. So it is now becoming, you're looking quite far ahead. One of the challenges that we faced is that we've had quite a big turnover in our playing squad over the course of not just the last 4 or 5 years, but probably over the last decade. If you look at the successful teams in the Premiership, they have a very small turnover. I think this year Exeter are only bringing in 1 or 2 players, Saracens only bringing in 3 players. That's what we're trying to get to, and we're now at a point where we believe we've a squad that we will only need to change 2 or 3 going forward. So the key to being able to do that is making sure that you retain the players who come out of contract. There are a number of ways to control that with longer term contracts, again, which we're doing. As we said here, I think every year, rugby is now moving down a football model. The contracts will become longer. You'll see transfer fees coming in. You'll see players moving in contract as well as out of contract. But to answer your question very succinctly, Johan and I had a meeting on Monday evening till quite late, looking at our squad for next season and starting to look at who we're going to keep, what areas we think we need to strengthen, and what players might be able to strengthen our squad going forward.
And when you identify a target, how complicated is that recruitment process? I guess it can be quite lengthy in some cases.
It is lengthy. It's the way that it certainly starts off. As we said, we decide what positions we want to look at. There are a number of big agencies now in rugby. It's gone away from the days where there were players were represented. One agent represented a small number of players. There are 4 or 5 big agencies involved now who represent the majority of players who will be available. So what they do around this time of year, you start to get a list of players who are out of contract in June 2019, because the contract cycle is 1st of July to the 30th of June. So we're starting to receive those now, and then it's a case of marrying up where we think the gaps in our squad are with where the opportunities to sign some players are. And while some are out of contract, there will be some in contract. There's some players who will not make a decision until much later in the season. So it's a very much a moving feast, and we're always looking at short-term options, long-term options.
That's great. Thanks, David. Do we have a question from the floor? Question right at the back, so talk amongst yourselves for a second while the microphone makes its way over there. Here we go.
Hi, good evening. We play mixed ability rugby on a Monday night at Keynes Cross run by the community section. I just wondered what else the community section did and what sort of budget they had to do those sort of things.
Yeah, we do a lot of different rugby sessions. So we do walking rugby, we do the mixed ability rugby. We do a lot of programmes about being good citizens as well. So not just rugby type stuff, but most nights of the week we're doing things out with different groups up at Long Levens or could be locally. Most days we've got 7 staff out in the community working with schools, whether that's on rugby or it's just with regards to eating well and as I say, being good citizens. So I think we get about 15,000 children to Kingsholm every year away from match day, coming through the doors, working with us from a rugby or non-rugby programme perspective. So it's a pretty much 6-day-a-week operation that we do here. I don't really want to go into budgets. It's quite complicated as well because we have some central funding as well to help us in terms of those projects. But there's a lot of good work that goes on, run by 2 former players effectively. So Adam Boulding, as you'll all know, former captain here. Terry Fanalua is very central to the rugby side of it. And then we have an educational side run by a fantastic young lady called Helen Chu. And we've got a specially designed classroom over in the fan zone now where we bring people in here for educational classes as well. And we do a lot of things around people with learning difficulties and people that probably haven't quite had the starting life that you and I have had. So it's a big programme, but if you ever get a chance, have a look on the website under our community section. It'll give you a little bit of an idea. But or call through to the club. If it's educational, you want a conversation with Helen Chu. If it's kind of rugby oriented with Adam and his team. But it's a big programme and it's getting bigger.
That's great, thank you, Steve. Johan, difficult question for you, I guess. How close are you to knowing what your best starting 15 is? Because obviously there's a lot of strength in depth and competition for places.
No, it's early days. Obviously, as difficult as it was for this coming week to select the 23, it's going to not get easier, especially if we get everybody available. I mean, for this coming weekend, obviously, Jaco Kriel and Tom Marshall and Rohan Dreyer and a few guys are not available, Tom Savage. If they were all fit and ready to go, it would have made it even more difficult. And then only time will tell, rugby is a funny thing. Some players hit a purple patch where they're just in terrific form. We think about Jake Pelledri last season. I think start of the season, not a lot of people knew about him, and now he's an international player. And that's now he's training well. And now we can just hope he takes that form into this season and grow from strength to strength. So in the next couple of weeks, we've got games on the Monday as well with that new competition. And we've got the Saturday games. And then I think it will almost, in some positions will be easier as players in form will put their hand up. So I'll probably know more or less, you can... We've obviously had the 2 warm-up games, and you watch the practices and you get an idea of what form the players are in. But the next few weeks, we'll some positions will probably get itself almost into of the way they are performing.
Can I just add that? I mean, it's tied a little bit into recruitment. Selection is such an emotive issue that everybody has their view on it. But if we want the squad that we're trying to put together, if we want a squad that can compete across the course of the season, Johan should be losing his hair more than he is every week trying to pick a team. That's really the job that this side we're trying to do. Give him the best squad that he has, so when he sits down to pick a team, there is almost a dilemma or a debate around every position.
That's great. Thanks both. Do we have another question from the floor? Yes, we do at the back.
I always had talks too much on my reports at school, but as there's not sort of tons of people putting their hands up, I'll have another crack. This relates to the new logo, which when it was introduced, there was a huge amount of interest and activity on social media, naturally. There always is when there's change at Gloucester. So really, my question is how, probably to Stephen actually, how does the new logo and the new strapline embody Gloucester moving forward as opposed to, well, in a way that perhaps the old one and the old strapline didn't?
Yeah, well, I mean, as I said to you earlier, it wasn't just about the logos. It started probably 18 months ago. In fact, the lady that you just gave the microphone to, Helen Rose, did a wonderful job actually in kind of working through this and owning the project. We spoke to players and coaches and staff, and we asked them a number of salient questions about values that are associated with being at the club. And through that piece of work, it kind of spat out that the logo wasn't really working for anybody. And we always had a gut feel that it probably wasn't quite doing what it needed to do. It looked very similar to a lot of other logos. If you hid the name Gloucester Rugby on our logo and said to somebody who didn't really, wasn't a Gloucester fan, who is this? It could have been a cricket club, a school, or anything else. So that's the harsh realities of it. And we know it's an emotive issue we're dealing with. But one of our kind of, you talked about strap lines and everything else, one of our kind of go-to words is about being brave. Our values around being brave as well. So we thought, well, we need to embody that now, and we need to start making some brave decisions. Whether that be around the playing group, our style of play, some of the things where we're kind of leading in rugby really with regards to what we're trying to do with our supporter activations on match days, etc. We felt a fresh new image was absolutely correct going forward for a number of reasons. One of the reasons as well is, it just didn't work very well digitally at all. From a social media perspective, didn't work at all. Didn't really engender any passion within all of the focus groups that we spoke to. We felt that a brave new start was needed. We looked at the logo and we said, right, the absolute minimum criteria needs to have the following. It needs to be cherry and white. We're not changing our name. We're Gloucester Rugby and we're very proud of that. Hence, one of the very deliberate straplines at the start was "We are Gloucester Rugby," and it was very, very plain to see. We wanted 1873 involved in it because we're very proud of our history and heritage. We've been playing here since 1891. We wanted something from the original city crest on there, and we looked at all of the component parts of the logo. The swords, the kind of the castle turrets, the lion and everything else in between. And we felt that the lion embodied, sport and pride and bravery and strength and courage and all of those things, which then became the logo that you see today. And it's been a journey. Not everybody's always going to like change, as you say, but somebody asked me at the Players' Day on Thursday, why we didn't consult all of the supporters, and I said we would never have got to a decision. And I wasn't being smart or funny, but it's the truth. And and that's why you have chief executives and marketing managers and heads of brand and all the rest of it to make these decisions based on the information that you have. So it links nicely into our values. We launched our values yesterday with our internal staff here at King's Home around brave, and hopefully you'll see that embodied as we go forward, not just with regards to some of the new logos and the home of the brave that you can see up here as well, but in terms of how we play, how we talk to the media, how we act in terms of supporting our own employees and what we try to do with regards to engaging our supporters going forward.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Steve. Steve, another question for yourself actually, just while you've got the mic there. Part of the King's Home calendar in the last few years has obviously been concerts, and there were very good reasons for the concerts not happening this summer. With the new playing surface in place, is it something that can happen again in the future?
Yep, absolutely. So we'll be planning to have at least 2, if not more, concerts at the end of this season. And it will be an annual piece. We had a lot of people that were kind of tapping on the door saying, well, who are we having this year, who are we having that year? But to get the pitch in the right place for the team, we couldn't do it this year. But yeah, going forward, absolutely, we're looking to put more concerts on.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Do we have a question from the floor? No, silence. Oh, yes, we do here in the middle. Thanks, Alan.
I'll ask another one as well then. I suppose to Johan and to David, the Premiership is incredibly competitive. Champions Cup is obviously even more competitive. Is there a team that you are actually looking forward to competing against the most? So, there's the obvious Saracens and Exeter there have been excellent in the last couple of seasons, but we've also got Castor and Munster as well. Is there a team that you are looking forward to putting your wits against?
If I mention the European one, perhaps, that I think with it being the first taste that a lot of our players will have had of playing Champions Cup, I think it's called the Heineken Cup again now, back into the Heineken Cup, particularly with the new recruits from the Southern Hemisphere, to draw a team like Munster, who almost epitomise everything that has made European rugby what it is over the last 20 years. To go there, you will get a feel of what it's about. I think where it's been tough the last few years is going from the Premiership into the Challenge Cup, hasn't had the same excitement around it. When we step into Europe this year, it's going to be a big step up, and it's going to be a huge test for our players, but one that I think they will thrive on.
I think it will be, something great if, as a player, as appealing for those players who joined the club, to test themselves at that level. Because coming from the Southern Hemisphere, watching rugby over the TV from there, you always looked at, the Heineken Cup of those days, and you see that the big Irish teams against the English clubs and the French clubs, and and it looks competitive, and you hear the crowds and the atmosphere, and I think that just add to the excitement, for them, knowing that the club has made that step up to that level, and that they're going to measure themselves against the best, not just at home, but also away from home, and experience that atmosphere and almost gauntlet of challenge, So it's going to be great. Munster, obviously, like David said, has got a rich history in the tournament, and with a fellow South African coach there in charge, it will be quite a test. And then Gloucester just opened up the weekend against Montpellier with a win again, So they've proved that to be the champions of last season is not by accident. They maybe haven't got those big French names, but they're a team that is physical and abrasive, and that's going to be quite a scalp if we can go down there in their backyard and have it there, So there's big challenges that face us, and to the Premiership, the one thing that I've learned in the past is to discard a team, not to have respect for any team. I'll never forget when I was a player, we had a brilliant win overseas in New Zealand, and the following week we played the Reds in Australia, and we were on our way to do a scrum session as a back of forwards, and the guys were in a light-hearted mood, and we just went through the normal paces, made a few jokes. The session wasn't great, but and stuff on that, because we knew we're playing a bottom of the lock team, and we just beaten a very good Highlander side, and although in your mind you think you'll be ready for Saturday, it just didn't happen, and we got not just a hiding on the scoreboard, but a hiding in the set piece, So it will be every win will be a great win, and even more if we start winning away from home. But that's going to be tough, as we know, if all the teams are quite proud on their home ground. So I don't want to mark a win that will be more special, but as long as we, perform well and make sure this place is as tough as possible to come to.
I think you have to refer to them as the unmentionables, Martin, a question for yourself. It was announced a few months ago that next May you're going to be taking over as chairman at Cheltenham Racecourse. Are there going to be advantages to being chairman at two such great institutions within the county? And secondly, as an individual, how proud are you to be chairman of both Cheltenham Racecourse and Gloucester Rugby?
Well, I was very surprised actually, and also very proud to be asked to be chairman of Cheltenham Racecourse, because that wasn't something I was expecting. So that's an honour, and I'm looking forward to doing the best job I can do there. In terms of the overlap, I think there's opportunities to work together, and Stephen's already had meetings with some of their marketing people, and our ground staff have met with their ground staff to talk about the things they talk about. So I think there's opportunities to work together, and I'm looking forward to it. This is very much my first focus. I'll be spending much more time at Gloucester than I will at Cheltenham, and that's the nature of the two jobs. But again, it's an honour, and I'm thrilled to be asked to do it.
Thank you, Martin. Do we have a question from the floor? We do. Thank you.
Have the club considered organising trips to away games, for example, Munster and also Castro away this year? It's been a bit of a nightmare trying to sort it out.
Yeah, we did look. I mean, the first thing we did, Alex Brown, who a lot of you will know, he's fantastic. So we organised the playing side first, and then our first port of call is always to go to KSM. to see what they're doing and what the market looks like. So, for example, in the past, we've got burnt sometimes when we put a charter on. We've tried to put charters on, but if it's a very attractive route anyway, people will just go for the cheapest route, so they'll just go with Ryanair or EasyJet or wherever it was. So we weighed it up, and I think KSM said they were doing quite a few trips. And off the top of my head, I think they sold maybe three flights out very quickly to Castres straight away. And I don't think Munster was working for us to do it separately because there's so many flights going out to Shannon and Cork, etc. So we always look at it. David will tell you that the preferred route of travel for the players is to charter a flight, because it's better. We can leave that night rather than having to wait till the next day, and we can get the supporters involved as well. So it's always our first port of call. But we have a kind of an agreement with the King's Home supporters mutual, really, that we, in those cases where we can't do that, we allow them to communicate their trips out to the supporters.
Helen, we have a gentleman in the red here who's got a question. Thank you.
I guess it's probably a question to David. Going back to the Championship, and fully accept financially so difficult for some of those clubs to ever achieve Premiership status. But what about the players in the Championship? Do we, and it's great that we promote and develop through the academy, but do we also look at players in the Championship? And are there a core of players that you feel could make the Premiership? Are there one or two clubs that have gone down that line?
There's no question the Championship has been a very, very rich breeding ground for players coming through, and I think there are 2 or 3 clubs who have gone in there this year. For us, we're very much trying to support Hartpury in the Championship there. Some of our players, whenever they're not involved with us, whenever there's not A games, they will be training with and playing for Hartpury. And we watch all the games, so there's no question that it's an area that we look at, but at the minute, we're very happy with the age profile of the players we have. We're very happy with the academy players coming through. So we haven't been looking for that type of player. We've been looking for more of the Jaco Creel, Franco Mostert type players. But there's no question that it has been and will always continue to be a route for players to get into the Premiership.
Okay, thanks, David. You mentioned Franco Mostert there, which brings me on to a question that was sent in by email. Is Franco Mostert definitely still coming? I think.
Is that for
whoever's got the answer?
Yeah. He didn't look at me, so yeah, okay. Franco is definitely coming. I was explaining to somebody just before we sat up here that those of you who are aware, under World Rugby Regulation 9, all players have to be available to play for their international, for their country. So we were delighted to see, as much as we would like Franco here now to be involved in the lineouts, we're delighted to see him playing for South Africa and representing Gloucester there. So as soon as the Rugby Championship is over, the final game is the first weekend in October. After that, then he will fly across.
Okay, so hopefully for that well-known online supporters forum, that will that will put that one to bed. Do we have another question from the floor?
I recently read that the club is employing a psychologist. If that is the case, what role does he or she have in terms of preparing the players to be mentally at their peak to perform at the highest level?
It's something that I think most teams have used quite successfully, and back home we did use it successfully. And when I arrived here, obviously there was one in place as well, but we felt a bit of new challenge for the players with a new voice and maybe a new angle. And we've at the moment on a short-term basis got somebody in, Dave Collins. He's working with the guys, and obviously also new to everybody. So players obviously need to earn their trust, so it's going to take time, but he's been with us with the week away, and since then, I'm sure, and I know he said that the players has opened up on certain areas of concerns and stuff that they worry, because to me it's not just a performance fact that he's going to assist us as management. He's observing a lot on how we conduct our messages to the group and how we communicate under pressure, because obviously he was at at the Ulster game, and he could listen over the radio how we communicate, and he gives us advice on that, as he comes from a high performance background, a military background, but also currently helping some football clubs and etc. And he worked with gold medalist sports individuals, so he's going to help us on that side. But I do believe that in any organization, as much as you want to be the father figure and and the council figure and everything, sometimes players feel if they open up too much, you will, can have it against them if they don't perform or whatever. And they need that avenue, if it's a pastoral avenue or a psychologist or somebody who can guide them, who can maybe calm them, who can give them advice, help them through that thing. And that's where I want, obviously, that person to be strong at and to help a lot. So yes, we want to perform, so that's first, one leg, but the other leg is to be a voice for the players. And he's obviously in his profession, like anything, it's confidential. So whatever they tell him, he's not running to me and say this and do you know this and this, unless it's something that the player obviously going to mutually agree. But I also want that relationship with the players to come to me and to tell me if there's things that they go through. But again, I can't. Then maybe I'm not qualified to give them the right advice always, and that's where that person, I do believe, hopefully between the three of us, can get the player to get at his best to perform again.
That's great, thank you, Johan. Helen, we had a question from Dave at the front here, actually, just across there.
Thanks very much. I may have missed subsequent communication on this, and if I have, I apologise, but a while ago you advertised for a chief groundsman. What was the thinking behind that, and what's been the progress on that?
Yeah, the thinking behind it really is we've had a kind of a pitch that's been just a normal grass pitch with, it's not even a 5% pitch. So I think ourselves and Bath, and possibly Harlequins, but definitely ourselves and Bath, the kind of the last of the Mohicans when it came to the old park pitch that we had. And quite simply, we've got fantastic ground staff here, good operational team. The new technology that's been employed with the new pitch, which is a hybrid surface, is absolutely chalk and cheese. So it just needed a different skill set. So we needed to bring somebody in who, has worked with those types of surfaces in a very high performance area, and that person's going to be joining us this week actually. So yes, we did fill the role, and we're really pleased with who we brought in.
Thank you, Steve. Steve, just going back to the issue of travel, we've had a tweet come in from Elaine talking about the Heineken Champions Cup and away fixtures, saying, can the club assist at all in travelling supporters getting match tickets? She says, probably quite rightly, we tend to be more effective and noisy when we're all sitting and standing together, but it's not always easy liaising with the foreign clubs.
Yeah, we get given a bunch of tickets at any given time, so we would do it the same to our visiting clubs here. If a club's coming here, we give them a block in a particular place, which invariably they do the other way around. What tends to happen though, because I think rugby supporters are quite different to football supporters, and most people just get straight online to the other club. I mean, I know loads of people already that are booking up for away trips in Europe and already on the case. We'll kind of do it themselves. For those people that I think want to travel in good numbers together, should get in touch with the club and ask when we're getting our allocation, so then they can all sit together if they can. Secondly, probably use the social groups that you've got and websites that you guys use in terms of the community, and work out where everybody else is going as well. So I don't think it's particularly scientific. It's get on the website of Munster or Castra whenever you can, if you want to book in a specific place. If not, phone us and we'll tell you when we're getting our batch of tickets, if you all want to try and make some noise together.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Steve. Helen, we have a question. Sorry, I'm making you walk. Right at the very back there. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Slightly better.
Good evening. On the question of the Heineken Cup and visits to foreign parts, which we all love, how well prepared are you for the visit of Munster? The Munster fans are the best in the world at buying tickets from all sorts of sources and can end up filling the stadium, and the home supporters have no tickets at all. So that's the extreme scenario. But the serious question, do we have a strategy to deal with the number of Munster fans that will come and make that first game such a massive game?
I think there will only be 50 tickets available.
I think I'll throw the question back to you, actually, because I wasn't here. There's a famous time, apparently, when they were buying step ladders from B&Q and jumping over the wall.
Quarter-final 2009, everybody?
Before my time. But on a serious note, a lot of our supporters sold their tickets to Munster supporters that time, and also the last time Munster played here as well. So we can't do a lot about that if our supporters decide to profiteer off the back of that. What I would say is that what we're going to be doing this year is for our club members, we're going to give them the opportunity to buy extra tickets. So we did it at the Bath game last year. You know, as you know, we try our very best to ensure that the club members get as much as they physically can out of the membership, predominantly on a price perspective, but also for different events that we do, etc. So we're going to be offering the opportunity for people to have more than one ticket from a club member. So hopefully that will mean that we can ensure that we keep as many of our supporters' tickets in our own supporters' hands. After that, then it's you know, it's a free market. We're still in Europe, aren't we? Yep. So it'll be down to you know, us getting our skates on and making sure that when it goes into open house that we book our tickets as soon as possible. You know, we want Munster fans here. They're a great club. They're great supporters, and it's great when we go there, when they come here as well. So the last thing we want to do is not have any Munster fans here. But what we just need to make sure that we do here is reward our members to give them access to more tickets. Then after that, it's down to you guys.
Okay. Good response. Martin, we've also had a question coming on Twitter. It's coming from, the tag is the ghost of Bezmenov, but it looks as though the chap's name is Neil. And the question is, do you think there's going to come a point in the not too distant future where Gloucester Rugby could develop and attract enough regular support to eventually need bigger capacity here at King's Own?
To mean, sorry, just answer the question.
To have to develop the stadium to accommodate more supporters?
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, one of my big goals here is to fill this stadium every week. I'd love to see, I mean, it's nothing like King's Own when there's 16,200 people here. And I hope we can play the brand of rugby and attract a full house every single week. And as soon as we do that, then yeah, we will expand the stadium to accommodate even more fans.
Brilliant. Thank you, Martin. Question from the front. Thank you, Helen.
Maybe for David. Has anybody tonight mentioned Danny Cipriani?
No.
Question for David. How relieved were you to secure his signing?
That's not the question you were expecting, is it?
Honestly, I've been around the game for quite a long time, like many of you have. Johan the same. I've played with some great players, watched some great players in training, and I can honestly say that in the last month since Danny's been in, what he's done in training has been incredible. The difference that he's made, I mean, Johan might want to add, but what he's brought in, and not just what he's brought, the confidence he's given the players around him. So I think we're all very excited to see, he transferred into the game last Thursday night against the Dragons, but it was one that when it first came up, Johan and I had a long discussion about what we needed as a team, and we just felt that the opportunity to sign, in our view, the best attacking number 10 in England to match the style of play that we were trying to play with all the other changes that are going there, that he might be the sort of the big piece of the jigsaw that takes us from being a team that can be very good but not so good to very good. He can bring that consistency to our performance. So, look, I'm delighted he's here. He's caused us a few interesting, but again, even on that, it's not something we've hidden away from as a club. I think the way that Steve Martin, we've backed him, we got a glimpse in Jersey of how his life is and the interest that he attracts, and it was an interesting 48 hours. But I think anybody who's been in rugby trips, and I'm not trying to condone bad behaviour, but it happens all the time, and it was just because it was Danny Cipriani. He was unfortunately in the media spotlight, but I think the way he is as a person, what he's brought to the club, with everything that's been hanging over him during that 2 weeks, the way he's played and trained has been a credit to him.
And where did he get his boots? His boots.
The yellow ones?
Yellow ones.
Oh, look no, it's, the days are gone now. The brighter the boots, even the props are wearing bright boots, so I'm not really sure what's happened.
Do we have another question from the floor? Anybody? Helen, just take the front. Thank you.
Just a quick question for Stephen. We mentioned membership just now. Can you tell us the actual number of members we have at the club?
Am I allowed to do that kind of thing? Yeah, well, we are, including our kind of corporate members as well, we're over 7,000 members now, which is, in fact, today we were having a conversation about this because it's the highest amount of members we've had in 5 years at the club, which is great, really, you know, when you consider kind of, you know, I think a lot of it is built off the back of last year when we had a better season. Didn't finish wonderfully, but I think we're a very knowledgeable rugby crowd in this part of the country. I think people can hopefully see the steps that we're putting in on and off the pitch. And so, yeah, so we're in a good place. I'd like to Martin's point about capacity and things, you know, I'd like to have 10, 11,000 members and cut it off there. To be quite frank with you, we're still a long way away from that. Other clubs have got that. We haven't at the moment, and I know that will come when we start delivering, you know, kind of performances and results which are going to kind of take us to that next level. But yeah, so we're really happy with where membership is at the moment. It gives us a great, from a business perspective, a great cash flow. It gives us great understanding operationally of what we need to plan for in terms of match day, etc. And it's the bedrock of what we can do actually as a business, trying to be self-sustainable. Having the knowledge of that support early doors is really important. So yes, we're really pleased where we are at the minute.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Helen, just a couple of rows back there. Thank you.
A couple of years ago, we used to be able to resell, as a member, you used to be able to resell your tickets through StubHub, and it's always been promised that the club would arrange something similar when you can't make a Friday night game or a Sunday lunchtime game or something. Are there any plans to repeat that in any way?
Yeah, we changed systems to a system that didn't have that as part of its armoury initially, and we're having a conversation at the moment with our system providers about when they can deliver that for us. So our new Chief Commercial Officer, Adam Benson, who's in here tonight, is dealing with that directly with the company that we're dealing with now. So we will have more information for you soon, but we will have it. It's not available at the moment because it doesn't exist on their portfolio at the minute, but we're working with them to make sure that happens. Yeah. Was it something that you found useful?
Particularly so when you can't make a Friday night game because you've got work, or Sunday lunchtime is going away, or occasional wedding or funeral. Or
Okay, thanks, Steve. We've received a tweet from Nigel who says, won't be at the forum tonight, Gloucester Rugby, but hope all goes well and you don't have too many questions about burgers and beer. Well, so far so good, Nigel, but I'm not holding my breath. Got a question again for Steve. Obviously, a few months ago, we all saw Graham Spring hang up his mic after an incredible 40 seasons as the PA announcer, and it's been revealed that the club is going to employ 2 individuals this year for match days. Can you explain the thinking behind that?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, so Spring U is brilliant, and you know, it's obviously he's paid his dues, 40 years. I mean, God bless him. In fact, I saw him here on Thursday as well. He couldn't keep his hands off. He was up in the gantry and all the rest of it. But yeah, so we looked at it, myself, Adam, Helen, Rowe, and we looked at our match day experience. And what you didn't see what Spring used to do as well was things down in the Shogun Bar and with the community and all the rest of it as well. And actually, it's a 2-man job. To do it correctly, it's a 2-man job. So we wanted to split it to, let's call it more rugby specific and a more kind of rugby non-specific, more around kind of, you know, entertainment and making sure that, you know, we're addressing the match day experience, not just for the absolute hardcore supporters that have been coming for a long time, but also for those people that may come for the first time that day, or younger audience, etc. So we decided that we needed 2 fairly specific roles, one around kind of pre-match, you know, kind of fan engagement, activation, and then somebody who's more rugby specific. So Warren and Andy have very separate roles. Andy made his debut on Thursday night against the Dragons. He's a great guy, former player actually for United back in the day, Forest Dean resident, knows everything he needs to know about rugby. He's going to do a fantastic job for us. And Warren, likewise, you know, we appreciate that going back to being brave and making brave decisions. Not everybody wants to have somebody that's just doing something that it hasn't played for Gloucester or isn't from Gloucester, etc., etc. But do you know what? We have to make some decisions, and you know, unashamedly, we need to get that light and shade on a match day where we do have somebody that's more around, you know, the atmospheric side of it, and somebody who's going to be dealing completely with the rugby side of it. So we decided basically, Duncan, that was a two-man operation. So that's what we're doing.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Another question from the floor at all? Okay, not a problem. Johan, question for yourself. We announced quite recently that Willie Hines will continue as captain for the second year in a row. How easy was that decision to appoint Willie?
Yeah, I think it was, you know, easy in the sense that, you know, Willie to me was, you know, a good captain, and a captain that, you know, showed that he, you know, he leads by example on and off the field. A guy that, you know, is easy to communicate with. He's a good leader. He's got a lot of respect from the players, and he's an experienced player, you know. And if you look through the squad, he'll have a lot of. Again, if we've got everybody involved in the team, if Ed Slater is in the 23, if Jaco Kriel is, and even from the outside, Billy 12-3s, Matt Banner and those guys, they can assist him on the field. But off the field, we felt most importantly to have that same voice. You don't want to chop and change every season. Like David spoke about the consistency in the club, if we can get that in the captaincy as well, you know, and we felt there was no reason why he couldn't be captain. He's got, like I've mentioned, a lot of respect from the players, and he's definitely one guy that always gives 100% on the field, and even on training, you know, he's driven to be successful, and that's why there's no shortcuts with Willie. So it was quite easy. When Willie was not available through injury, we obviously had Tom Savage, we had Ed Slater, and that last match we had Lutz as a captain, and they all, you know, again did tremendously, and we want them to lead also those respective roles in the positions that they play. But it was quite easy to make Willie the captain to keep that consistency.
Great, thanks, Johan. Do we have a question from the floor at all? Yes, we do. Thank you.
Hi. Firstly, thank you for delivering the best closed season we've ever had at Gloucester in my lifetime, anyway. And secondly, a question for Johan. Of all the new signings, apart from Danny, who are you most excited about pulling on the Gloucester shirt? And that's a one-name answer.
So I'm going to be in trouble with somebody if I don't mention their names. I think that obviously I know the players some more than others, and you know, obviously each guy, like you've mentioned, I can only mention one name, but the thing is, each guy's, I know individually they can make a huge difference if they're at their best. But the one guy I hope the club see at his best is Jaco Kriel. If the club can see what I experienced back home with him at his best, hopefully people will really enjoy his style of play and what he can bring to the field.
Okay, we have a question at the back, Helen.
Johan, following on from that, I've always thought over the past 10 years Gloucester has had a Scottish feel to it, a Welsh feel to it, an Irish feel to it. Now we've moved into an era where it's a South African feel to it, and we have 4 or 5 outstanding players coming from South Africa for this new season. What sort of things do you do to welcome them, induct them, but also for the players here already to avoid a sort of sense of the South African group in this part of the changing room or in certain activities, that sort of, because it's a big influx. And the sort of subsidiary question is, will we see increasingly a South African style in our rugby over the next 2 or 3 years? Thank you.
Thanks for that interesting. Now, I think you know, how do we make them feel welcome is the more challenge. But no, to me, it's, you know, it's about earning your respect, and I think the players that well, it's 3 players. Franco Maria only coach for a week or 2 weeks, and that was with the SAA side. And in Gerbrand, I've never coached him before. I just knew about him when he was a young player in South Africa, and then obviously he went away to Racing Metro and Munster, etc. But the reality is, you know, that they have to earn their respect, obviously, on the playing field and off the field, how they conduct themselves. And I've got full trust knowing those players' character and how they conduct themselves, that the players here will embrace them and just see them as teammates. I think from my side, I'm aware of that. You know, I'm aware that I don't want people to think I only, you know, favour one nationality. The reality is, when I arrived here with John Afoa and Jeremy Thrush and Willie Hines and Tom Marshall and all those were with a New Zealand background, to me it's not about where you come from, it's how you respect the players around you, you know, and therefore, you know, the culture must be bigger than the individual, and any team culture must be bigger than any nationality, and it's how you conduct yourself. So I think that's the part that we focus on, you know, to be part of that one team, and I think it's how we create that environment for them. And I'm obviously aware that I must treat them similar to any other player. You know, there's no favours, there's no being more friendlier with them than other guys or more approachable. They can come and see me when they like, and hopefully the players will, you know, all the English players and all the other nationalities can say that with an open and honest heart. I don't treat even Ruan differently to any other player in the squad. If you have to deserve your spot in the team and in the group, and you know, so to me, I want to have a relationship with every player, not just with the South African players, obviously, and I want them all to be like my sons and care about them. It's obviously a 4-year road that I've walked with some of those players comparing to 1 year, so that will develop over the next time. But we, from a club side, you know, David will know, I would like to do even more, but the more we spend time with each other, the more we do social stuff with each other, the more the players can learn from each other and learn about their backgrounds and where they come from and how to respect each other and treat each other. And at the end of the day, the closer we can come together, I think we'll look up beyond that boundaries. But it was part of the process. We get a lot of names on the table daily of players who want to join the club. In the one sense, that's great that they see Gloucester as a place to further their careers. But obviously, it's important that, you know, if possible, you can speak to the player and just ask him, you know, how does he see the game, and get a feel on what his character is all about. So it was a bit easier with those players, and I trust and know they will fit into the Gloucester culture that we want to create.
Okay, we're approaching the final 10 minutes, so if you do have a question, be prepared to ask it. Anybody else next? Helen, just over this side. Gentleman 3 rows back. Thank you.
Sorry again. One player you haven't mentioned, and I was really impressed with him on Thursday, was Matt Banahan. I guess he looked you in the eye as well. He's massive. How's he settled into the Gloucester culture after so many years down the road? And
yeah, you know, obviously I don't want to put words in his mouth on his behalf, but what he's told me is that, you know, it almost feels like a new life for him in rugby. He's so excited to be here. It's a new challenge. You know, obviously he has to prove himself again. It's that change environment and new culture, new voices around him. He has to make new friends. But again, from a coaching point of view, a great person to have in your squad, you know, a great team man, as you've all seen. He didn't need to do it, but he cut off his hair for the milk challenge. And he's just a great guy on the field, oozes with experience, you know, you can see how he keep calm, things about the game, got a lot of confidence, he believes in himself. And again, he's an easy guy to have around. He's not, you know, he's very quiet, but you can see that the playing confidence that he's got is going to hopefully spill over to the guys around him. And then again, you know, easy comfortable with the culture and just a great guy around the team. So, and I know for a fact he said, you know, he's fitter than he was before. He's, you know, because he took up the challenge of doing the things we do differently and fit into the training regime. And again, you know, that's why I say sometimes in your career, change is difficult, but it's exciting as well. It brings the best out of you again, and hopefully the try that he scored will multiply by another 20 or 5 of that, something like that. So, yeah, it's good.
Thanks, Johan. David, one for you. It's come in via email. Billy Burns obviously started pre-season with us, but then obviously took the opportunity to move to Ulster. In terms of how the finances work, does that give you room to work in terms of the salary cap? And is that something you keep up your sleeve as a contingency, so to speak?
Not really. I think in terms of the Billy Burns, we were probably all very disappointed to see him leave. We knew with Danny coming in that there's always an element of disappointment that we've signed another 10. But our message to him was he's still a young man. And with Danny coming in, there were parts of his game that he could add a huge amount to, learn from Danny. The example we used was Dan Tobin had been in Leinster when Leinster signed Felipe Contampone ahead of Johnny Sexton. At the time, Johnny was very disappointed for obvious reasons, as was Billy. But everybody looks now at Johnny, and he would credit that with part of his experience and the learning that he got during that period. But there came a point where Billy came in and sat down with both Johan and I and then said, look, I don't want to be here anymore. I want to go and take up a new challenge elsewhere. And as I said, that's part and parcel of what we do now. While we're sorry to see him go, he will do well in Ulster. Look, you never know, he could be back here at some stage in the future.
Okay. Thanks, David. Do we have a question from the floor? Okay. Johan, we've alluded to strength in depth and competition for places, virtually every position in the squad. How easy is it to keep the players who are not playing happy when they're not getting selected?
I don't think that it's ever easy, Duncan. I think, you know, players want to play, and to be disappointed not to be selected after you've put in the hard work on the training pitch is never easy. But it's again, you know, I think they know I'm honest about it, in the sense that it's never easy. We don't take selection lightly. We don't, you know, I don't just put in names because I like them more or because they, you know, didn't talk back to me or whatever. You know, it's simple. We look at the performance. We look at the training week. We look at the numbers of time that the guy has started. Is he overplayed because it's a long season? And there's a lot of factors that can influence. We look at the tactics we want to use, and maybe some of the skill set of that specific player is suiting more of the area that we want to attack. And, you know, so there's a few things, but the thing is that we make conscious and that we focus a lot on is that we need every player, you know, to buy into the success of this team. We need every player to know that he's got a role to play. If it's not physically on the match 23, it's preparing the team. So if we, for example, scrum on a Tuesday afternoon and the hooker who's not selected is in the other scrum and he's messing around, he doesn't give us the best possible, you know, scrum practice, obviously it's going to influence the whole of the team. And the moment you get a negative group as an individual and he goes to his friends, and I don't talk about sharing his feeling and say his disappointment, I'm talking about other players back, talking about the coaches or whatever. It's just a reality that you won't be successful because it will somehow split the group. And therefore, you know, a big part of the focus is to get your culture, the brave, the values in place, that people put the team first. And one of those values in brave is to put the team first. You know, there's always people that you can serve and look after, and that's what I want the team to understand. And credit to the players, they've bought into that values and they've bought into that culture. So although individually they will come to me and say to me that, you know, they're disappointed, what can they do to get? I've never, and, you know, may it continue that we had a player on the field who disrupted the training because he was a negative, and even more so the group that we've got now. You know, the guys who came in, again, we spoke about the character. They will be guys that will take the disappointment on the chin and hopefully wait for the opportunity to play. So it is a big responsibility for us as coaches and management to keep those players engaged, to keep them happy. I think it's important that we make them feel part of the team when it comes to off-the-field stuff, tickets, whatever they need to be happy, because we're going to need them somehow. And then with the, I don't know, the A-League, the new name that's kicking off, obviously that's an opportunity for them to prove themselves. And that's what players want to do. They want to express themselves on the field, and that help if there's some other games as well they can express. But it's a big part of success, and if the players can understand that, then we can manage them well. Hopefully we'll get a group that is competing for positions but always supporting each other.
That's great. Thanks, Johan. We've got time for just a couple more. So one there, one here. Yep.
Yeah, Johan's mentioned several times tonight the Gloucester culture. I'd be interested in his views what the Gloucester culture is. Perhaps it's different to the Lions culture or the Ulster culture. Perhaps you'd like to comment on that.
Yeah, for us, culture is that serving mentality of, like I've mentioned before, we've got a culture where there's trust, where there's that personal responsibility in delivering excellence. So I don't believe on a autocratic, my way kind of style of culture. So there's a lot of faith into the leader group and into the players group and sitting around. So I want players to, first of all, have enjoyment, a place of belonging. And I think that's the stuff when we talk about culture. I want the players to say, this is the place that I want to be. And if a player wants to leave here, the culture that he must say is, I've been treated so, I've enjoyed the treatment that I received here, and the place that we put together here, that it's not just about money. Always, if we want to leave here, it must be hard for them to leave, and I think we're getting there. Obviously, there's always room for myself individually, and always a room for improvement of where we can serve each other better. And we spoke about the DNA, that we want to leave behind as a group. We want to make the people of Gloucester proud if we play away on how we conduct ourselves as a team, where we stay and whatever and what we do. So that's the kind of things, like I said, we're going to strive for as a team to improve. Obviously on the field we want a certain style. I spoke about that, of play to inspire. We focus, although the people don't hear it often enough, but the players will know that we speak a lot about our responsibility towards the supporters, the people that make the effort to come to a Saturday, to come and watch the game. So although I know individuals got goals and want to achieve stuff in life, and they've got their family and their friends that they represent and stuff, the main thing is we as a team has to make Gloucester and Gloucester City proud of who we are. And I think that's the kind of culture that we want to create. Although we're not the same nationality and we're not from the same area, we want to have a culture where people say, adopt this town as the place that provides for them and that they will serve back. And how we can do that is through the club, through the avenues, and through how we train and how we treat people around us.
And I think...
Can I just add one very small part to that? Obviously, culture is a word that's used across all businesses. And for me, it's very simple. If you recruit the right people, you get the right culture. So if from our organisation, from the top down, we've got the right people in the right places with very clear rules and responsibilities, you will get the right culture.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Owen. Do we have one final question? I think we did here at the front, didn't we? Thanks, Helen.
Okay, one final one. Players come and go at Gloucester. There's two players, Darren Daraduke and Joe Batley. Could we all as a group wish them all the best for the future, because they've obviously been through health scares?
Yep, absolutely.
And was there one at Hartpury as well, Reece Oakley as well? Like to wish all of them good luck going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we all echo that, definitely.
Okay, thank you very much.
That's 8:30 on the dot, ladies and gentlemen. So that's an hour and a half, and I think you agree there's been some good questions, some very good answers as well. Just leaves me to thank the panel who've given up their time this evening to come and talk to you. David Humphreys. Martin St Quintin. Stephen Vaughan. Johan Ackerman. And on behalf of everyone at the club, thank you very much for coming along this evening. We very much appreciate you making the effort to come and put your questions to the panel. Thanks to everybody who contributed online. And of course, thank you for your ongoing support of Gloucester Rugby. We look forward to seeing you here on Saturday. Thank you.